Hello, and thank you for joining me, Diane. I'm excited to have a chance to dive into the Counseling Hypnotherapy program. How are you today?
I'm good, Jason. It's wonderful to see you. We get to play
So,
together today.
yeah, exactly. And I love that you called it play because every time we have a conversation, it just seems to be kind of laughs and giggles, and I kind of lose track. So, we're going to stay on track somehow today and
That's
talk about
right.
the Counseling Hypnotherapy program, which I was a student in. And you've been teaching that program now for how long?
16 years, I think.
Give or take a day or two?
You were taking a day or two. That's right.
And you actually were a student of Sheldon's as well, right?
I was. So I have been through this program.
And that was, are we going to date things? Was that 16 years ago? Did you
Yeah,
come straight into this?
probably 16 years ago. No, that would have been I've been doing this for 16, so that would have been 17 or 18 years ago.
And I think you're even a celebrity in some of the training videos in the course that Sheldon recorded years ago. You were one of the example clients in those videos.
Yes, yes. The going over the bridge hypnotherapy session is quite famous.
Yeah. All right. So the hypnotherapy program, Orca Institute, I know that like I can go on and on about what it did for me and my transformation taking this course. But when you took it way back, not way back when you took it 17 years ago and you started working with Sheldon, what was like part of the passion that drove you to want to actually like teach this stuff?
Counseling hypnotherapy, the hypnotherapy aspect of it is just the most creative process. And what I got incredibly excited about, because this is based on the work of Milton Erickson. And Milton Erickson was an American, he was actually a psychologist. He was a doctor, and he loved hypnotherapy. And he uses stories and metaphors and these things that to me are just so creative in order to be able to speak the language of the unconscious. So once I realized that I could actually create a story in order to be help a client to tap into the part of themselves that is wise, I just came alive because it's creative for me. It's in relationship. I'm not creating the story alone. It's all about the relationship. So that was what got me excited. Plus, it's a different way of working. It's another tool, a
Mhm.
way of getting the conscious mind, give it a little bit of a break and allow the higher consciousness, the unconscious part of ourselves, both those, to come in and do the work, to help and to support. And you know
I
healing's
think
not linear.
it's
And
always interesting when you tell people that you're doing a program like this or that you're a hypnotherapist, the first thing that comes across is, well, I don't think I can be hypnotized. Can everybody be hypnotized? What is hypnosis? What is trance? Like, there's a lot of mystery around this. And I think a lot of it stems from all of the stage hypnosis or what is, shown in like, we both did an eye roll, I think, simultaneously. But, there's a lot that was put out there as what hypnosis was, and a big part of this program is learning what it's not. So I wonder if maybe we kind of start with what is hypnosis and what is it not? What is trance work? What is it not?
well, let's trance work simply is as helping a client be able to move into a relaxed state.
Mm,
And in this relaxed state, as I mentioned, the conscious mind gets a bit of a break,
mm,
whereas the unconscious and the higher conscious part of ourselves gets to access within us the skills and the abilities and the way to make changes. It's not a magic wand. It's not controlling.
mm,
Fascinating thing about the unconscious is that it'll ignore whatever it doesn't want to hear.
mm-hmm,
Um, what it is it's at its simplest, it's relaxation.
mm-hmm.
It is therapeutic relaxation. And it's therapeutic in the way that what is it that you've brought to work on? And now we're going to take that into the relaxed state and help a part of you that can help you and knows the order.
Mm-hmm,
Healing's not linear,
mm-hmm,
and you don't, I have no idea what needs to be done first, but the higher consciousness of you and the unconscious of you knows.
mm-hmm.
Gets a chance to be in there and to work
And I think
without.
a lot of people can relate to that feeling when you talk about relaxing the conscious mind. And we're talking about the part of the mind that is potentially really working a lot of the time. What does this person think of me? And what do I have to do next? And how do I look when I wear this? And all of the ways that we've been conditioned to think about things, and to just imagine what that can be like, to just quiet that, and the
Mm.
gift that that can be in of itself is powerful.
Yeah, and to quiet it at the level that it can be quieted for that client.
Hmm.
Nice thing also is it doesn't have to look any particular way. I believe every single person can go into that relaxed trance state, because I don't worry about whether you're really deep or whatever. I honor where you can go to, because that's where the work is going to happen for you. So part of the skill is to learn and to trust that. It's to trust that part of that person, that because if people come for therapy, that's a huge thing to do to begin with. So
Hmm.
that person's already there. They're already present. They already have a longing and a desire for something to be different. We're going to work together through this beautiful creative process, and you get the gift of a relaxation.
Hmm.
So it can be very powerful.
And I think what you just talked about is the big distinction to also make is hypnosis versus hypnotherapy. And if you're just coming in, you don't know this person whatsoever, you sit down, they say, I'm going to make you cluck like a chicken. Yeah, maybe that's not going to work. But that therapeutic process of coming in, meeting the individual, what are your wants? What are your needs? What are you looking for? What brought you to me? How can we work together? And the portion before we even talk about inducing into trance being so powerful of a piece of this. So I wonder if you can speak a little bit even to what a hypnotherapy session kind of looks like in that structure.
Yes, and I just want to add one thing to what you just said. The beautiful thing about it is I don't know how to make you cluck like a chicken and bark like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
A hypnotherapy session has one different than a counseling session. It's that hypnotherapy component. Um, but basically, a client comes in, they start to share with you what's going on, what they're wanting to work on. The exploration will be done by the counseling hypnotherapist based on the skills that they have. If they have a lot of other counseling skills, hypnotherapy can be a beautiful adjunct. So, if you have some person-centered training or some other types, you're going to do your normal counseling stuff, and you're going to gather information, and you're going to find out what they want, what stands in the way of it. What does it look like? Can you even visualize the place that you would like to be at, or the actions you would like to take? All of that's part of the session. And then as each individual counseling hypnotherapist is going to take that into the hypnotherapy part and uniquely do something for you.
Mm.
And it's going to be something that everybody's going to do it differently, but it's going to be for you because it's right in this moment now.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of times clients will record those sessions, that part of the session, so that they can listen to it again. So it becomes this valuable little tool of change. It's an incredible process for change.
Yeah, and it's so powerful, that piece that you said, like it's for you. And you mentioned telling stories and your passion for telling story. Now, to anyone who comes into Orca's hypnotherapy, counseling hypnotherapy program, you're going to hear Diane tell stories. And Diane, you're a skilled storyteller. And I think it's interesting that I had no idea coming into the program that there were so many different ways of working with the unconscious mind, that we can do storytelling and have the metaphors and the creative mind latch on to what can, like a story about a porcupine connecting to this 5-year-old child in me that felt like he needed to keep everyone away with his prickly attitude. Like there's so much in that. And yet there might also be people that maybe do handle like more direct suggestion better, or people who want just space for their unconscious mind to do the speaking to them. And I think that's the piece, is there's so much more here than what people just see often of what hypnosis and hypnotherapy is.
Well, you just brought up like the key component, right? There are many schools, but the two sort of schools of hypnotherapy is indirect and direct.
Mm.
Milton Erickson could be very direct. One of the gifts of his work was also the indirectness. And if you think about it for a second, the unconscious mind, especially in relationship with counseling, is always thinking, what's she saying and what does it mean to me?
Mm.
Why is she saying that? She wouldn't be saying that if it didn't have something important to offer me. So it's always seeking to make sense of what's being offered. So if I can create a story that is indirect enough, so I'm not filling all the blanks in, I'm not telling you what you need to do, I'm not telling you how to do it, but what I'm doing is I'm creating the space for you to actually take what we've just talked about in the counseling part of the session in through the unconscious and the higher consciousness into the hypnotherapy part. Oftentimes what happens is things get worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And they get worked out by the story. When you think how powerful movies are, when you think how powerful a good book is, have you ever sat down and watched a 2-hour movie and you haven't been thinking about whatever's going on, but you come out the other end of the movie and you suddenly start to get epiphanies about something that you'd been struggling with or pondering? It's because you had the space in the movie and your unconscious was going, I'm going to use this space, or I'm going to use whatever's being offered here to work on, because your conscious mind is out of the way. It's busy watching the movie. So hypnotherapy is that.
Well, and I think that speaks so much to why storytelling has been in like human culture for thousands of years, all around the world, like the number one way to relay information, to teach lessons. And it wasn't often direct. Like I've lived with different indigenous peoples around the world, and so much of the storytelling that they do is of the fox that steals fire and like all of this. And the way that the unconscious mind makes sense of things, like you say, is so beautiful. I remember it was, so we'll talk about the structure of this program, but the first weekend that we ended up doing together, I think I remember right off the bat, I'm like, what am I getting myself into? I show up, there's like 10 other people popping on this Zoom call. Here's this person, Diane. I think you had a crazy I love fantasy t-shirt on or something like that.
And
And
dragon t-shirt, maybe.
dragon t-shirt, maybe. Okay. And you ended up guiding us through an induction that day, giving an example, and you told a story. And I remember so powerfully, one, I went so deeply into trance that I couldn't even believe it coming out the back end of it. And you told the same story even to the whole group of 10 people. And then when we discussed it afterwards, every individual got something so uniquely different out of that story. And I had this whole like breakthrough of, oh my gosh, my reflection in the lake and who am I really and all this kind of stuff. And other people are thinking other things. It's fascinating the way the unconscious mind is trying to process these things. And if we give it the space to do so, there can be so much growth.
And the respect.
And the respect.
And the respect. The idea that this person sitting in front of me may have a challenge and a situation that they wish they could change or do differently. And yet there is a part of them that is very wise. And the thing that hypnotherapy does is it helps us to access it. It helps us. And you mentioned about the weekends. That's one of the beautiful things about this course is that you will get 6 weekends, that's Saturday and Sunday, of working directly with me, working with the other students, having conversations, being able to bring whatever it is, because everybody comes into the hypnotherapy program a little bit differently than the counseling. And this is counseling hypnotherapy, so you will be learning counseling as well. But everybody's at a different place. Some people are in there to just add it to a practice. Some people are in there because they want to learn how to do past life regressions and the more esoteric parts of hypnotherapy. Some people want to use it, in a very concrete way. So no matter what you bring, that's what we're going to work with. And that's what I love. We have people right now in there that want to use it for more of a real mystical way of working. Other people want to use it very succinctly, this is how we do it. It's not esoteric. That's not the kind of clients they have. it works beautifully for your style. And that's what
Mm.
I'm going to work with you on. How do we create something, and how do you learn within the style you want to be able to use it in?
Yeah, so we talked about the weekends, we talked about the way that it connects. So if we break down the program itself, you have the framework of 8 months. In that, there's the whole Moodle platform, there's reading, there's so much amazing video content of watching Sheldon work with people from everything from how to kick smoking to, memories of car crashes to getting over bridges to all of these different examples of negotiating, not so much negotiating, but working with that unconscious mind with that respect. So, what I really appreciated about the program was how many different learning styles there were. Yes, there were the exams, there's the readings, there's the textbooks, but then there's the tangible videos that I remember late, like 2 o'clock in the morning, sitting up and watching and like wanting to just click on the next one and next one. Like, what's going to happen? Is she going to remember what happened in the car accident? And then there's these weekends where they are fairly in depth. Like, it's Saturday and Sunday. We're sitting there, we're getting into it. In addition to the writing, the reading, the essays, these intense weekends, we're also working with actual people during this program. And I think that was
Right.
something I didn't actually, I didn't necessarily read all the parts before, but I was so happy when I got into it. But in this program, you have 60 hours of
Right.
supervised sessions.
And three actual videos as well. So you'll be doing three videos, and I will be giving you feedback for the videos, watching, because some people, everybody needs to learn how to do the basics of counseling, and some people will come in with more of that. So I'll want to see some counseling, I want to see some hypnotherapy, and I'm going to support you in both of those fields.
Mhm,
And how you want to be able to use it. So that you're right, it does have an enormous amount of opportunities to learn differently.
mhm.
And I'm often doing sessions in the weekends for the people that want to do it. That's the other thing is that you have the freedom to say, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to learn. It's very open,
Mhm,
and as long as you're willing to communicate with me, and everybody is, then we're going to work together on this. We're going to see what we can help you create, because that's my whole goal is that, life mission is important to me. And I love the fact that people are coming in and they're wanting to use something that they're excited about to create something to offer, to the world, to themselves. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and you touched on the support. And I think that's one of the really amazing things about this program, because I was looking to learn about hypnotherapy. I'm in Ontario, the institution's out of BC. I looked at all these different places in Ontario. I had phone calls with different people. I went Canada wide. I even called an institute in the UK. And it was when I got on the phone with Sheldon, the founder of Orca Institute, and I started explaining, I have a background with mindfulness and meditation. Is this going to be something that I can bridge into this? Is this going to be completely new? Is there going to be elements of this being familiar? And we just went off on a phone call about, my life experience, his life experiences. And even though it's got like a combination of like this small institute feel with a really big impact, because Sheldon's done a lot of work to get the Orca Institute recognized. And as far as this being like an 8 month program, so many of these other hypnotherapy programs are much shorter. They're trying to just teach you tricks. And I say that, however, I don't want to belittle other programs and everything, but they're certainly not going into the depth that this program goes into. And I think that's why the key is the counseling hypnotherapy. Because one thing I think it says right on the Orca Institute, anyone can learn to put somebody into trance, or to help someone, guide someone into trance. Anyone can learn this, but to do the helping, the healthy work of the counseling hypnotherapy is where the in-depth learning kind of goes into. And you really are passionate when you're teaching it and you're talking about, like, these are real people you're working with, these are real sessions. And there'd be times where we would stop on the weekend and say, no, stop. Let's talk about this, because this is serious. Even if it's your best friend and you're thinking, I want to do whatever with them, like, no, now we are doing real work with real tools. And
Right.
I really appreciated that component to it. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that piece that makes this a counseling hypnotherapy course.
Yeah, you're right. Anybody can do hypnosis. In order to be able to do counseling hypnotherapy, you really need to have a foundation of learning how to listen, of
Mm,
learning how to be in relationship, of creating the space, the grounded space, even within yourself, to be able to be in the presence of somebody who's sharing something very important to them and may not have shared it with anybody else in their life. And now you have that opportunity to help that person explore themselves through the counseling aspect, through whatever you have or creating in relationship, and then take that into the hypnotherapy. So it adds another level of how do I find a way of creating something that will help you in order to be able to make the changes, because it's not me making the changes,
mhm,
it's you making the changes. And what is your relationship with the that whatever it is you're wanting to change or to do differently? Because if I don't take that into account, which is the counseling aspect of it, I could give you as many relaxations as you want, but I need to find out what is it that stands in the way? What is it that you're dealing with? What is it that you have dealt with? So
mhm,
this is all the counseling part of it. And that part is every bit as important as the hypnotherapy. The
mhm,
hypnotherapy will help you to relax and to make some changes, but you may need to do some processing. You may need to do some sharing. You may find that you're doing some unearthing of things that you haven't really thought about in a very long.
going through my own journey while we were going through the program, and I would leave some of those weekends like, whoa, okay. And I could appreciate that, because I would always volunteer to be one of those people to get put into trance when we were on those weekends. And knowing that I was supported even in that. Because I remember one of the times you did guide a session, and I was the client in that session. I got an email from you right after everyone had logged off, and just like, hey, want to check in, make sure that you're feeling okay. Remember, you can always reach out to me. And I think to both prepare people that stuff can come up when you're doing any kind of deep learning, and you're focusing on how can I listen better, how can I show up more, that we unconsciously start doing a little bit more of that to ourselves too, but to also know that there's lots of support in the form of you and Sheldon in this course as well.
Yeah, there's nothing more sacred than the relationship between a counseling hypnotherapist and their client.
Mm,
It is a sacred relationship. And I, even though this is a teaching atmosphere, based on exactly what you just offered us, is that this is serious stuff.
mm,
And part of my job as a counselor is to be aware of different signs and different, we call it minimal cues, just what's going on for you, and to be able to ask another question, to be able to wonder what's happening. And it's the same thing in the class. My responsibility is to, as much as I can, and as much as people are willing to share, is to create a safety so that we can do these kind of explorations. And also to create a safety for you to say, no, not yet, not yet. And some students do, and I really want to honor that. Everybody gets a chance to do what they need to do in the class, because we're all uniquely different, and this is a space that it's my responsibility to make sure that you're feeling as safe as I can help you to be.
And you did. You held space for everyone fantastically. And I think, looking at what can be accomplished in 8 months, and, going back for a lot, I think everyone in the program that was there, they had done, post-secondary education, they had experienced some aspects of life. So for all of us coming back into this like student mentality too, and reminding ourselves, like, when we put the time in, because you do have to, you put the time in. I had to, like, it was a bit of a shock at first, like, oh yeah, I remember how to be a student again. But when you put into something like this, that you really get a lot out. So I'm going to take the opportunity while I'm on this video to also let this be like a testimonial for anyone looking for a program like this. It's not only going to give you so much in the way of tools and skills, but the confidence that was built in being able to work with people and turning that back in on myself, It really was a transformative experience. So I'm going to also take this opportunity to thank you and Sheldon. And I'm just curious, with the time that we have left here, when someone's new, maybe they're curious about this program, what's something that you want to say and leave with people who are looking at potentially joining the team?
If you're passionate about it, even if you know just a little bit about it, if you're passionate about doing a different type of modality, then hypnotherapy is an incredibly creative process. And it is a very safe process. And you're going to learn an enormous amount of skills in order to be able to create safety for the clients. It is the most creative thing that I have ever learned. And if that gets you excited, if you even like a little bit of anything to do with, stories, metaphors, animated movies, anything where you can tell a story, where you can actually use what a person loves to be able to create it, this is the place to come and play, because you're going to learn an incredible skill, but you're going to learn so much about yourself and your ability to create in this process. And that excites me. And for the people that just wonder if they have enough creativity, oh my goodness, you do. And part of my job is to find where that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Diane. I look forward to when we can cross paths in the future. I think this is one of the other great things of Orca is there's so many ways to keep the community going even after you graduate. And I do feel like I'm part of the community. So thank you so much. And I can't wait till next time.
Oh, thanks so much, Jason. Really appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.